The Oklahoma City Thunder get their biggest road win of the year and look incredible while doing it. SGA is saying all the right things. Josh Giddey is performing well in the clutch, and this entire Thunder team played excellent in Philadelphia. And dare we talk about
playoffs?
We'll find out on today's Locked On Thunder podcast.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I am your host, media member, and editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by LinkedIn, we're going to dive into the best road win for OKC. SGA was awesome and is saying the right things to give you the warm and fuzzies. Josh Giddey was immaculate in the clutch. Both Jalen Williams play incredible. Trey Mann was cooking. And this team continues to play at a high level that makes us wonder if it's time for
playoffs.
But today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your jobs for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. So we start the way we always do with our game overview. And in this game, the Thunder, of course, did not have Chet Holmgren or Ousmane Dieng or Jeremiah Robinson or Alexei Pokusevski. And then those guys were out. Eugene Omoruyi and Aaron Wiggins were both DNP CDs. The Sixers are only missing G League assignments. They were fully healthy. They were fully loaded. They were ready to go in this game. The Thunder have struggled on the road all year long. This is the first leg of a back-to-back on the road, the second straight road game after a brutal Miami loss on Tuesday on national television. The Sixers dusted OKC in Bricktown on New Year's Eve, and the Sixers had won 13 of their last 16 games on a 2-game winning streak, but yet the Thunder prevail in Philadelphia, with the starters for OKC being SGA, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, and Jalen Williams. For the Sixers, it was their playoff 5. I mean, it was Harden, Maxey, Harris, Tucker, and Embiid. And yet the Thunder went into Philadelphia, where they typically play bad on the road, and won an incredible game. And you won this incredible game because SGA is a superstar. He just is. 37 points, 6 assists, 8 rebounds, a steal, 2 blocks, only 1 turnover. He shot 62% from the floor. He's an efficient superstar, shooting 1 for 1 from 3, which was a beautiful step back to open the game. 16 for 16 at the free throw line. And there were so many highlight plays in this game for the Thunder, but especially for SGA. He had the one-on-one transition, fast break against James Harden. We're like, yes, the Thunder were hunting out James Harden all game long, especially SGA was hunting out James Harden. But that wasn't a James Harden thing. That was there's no way to stop SGA thing. When he gets you downhill, what are you supposed to do? Because he can kill you in the mid-range. He can kill you with the mid-range step backs. He can stop on a dime. He can get downhill and attack at the rim and close at the rim better than any guard in the NBA almost. You know, up there with the best guards in the NBA at finishing at the rim. So what can you do to defend that? At that point, you're on your heels and you're guessing. But here's the thing. Because of the play style that SGA plays, because he's so methodical, calculated, and under control, patient, fluid, slow, if you want to call it slow, it looks like slow motion, obviously, but it's incredibly athletic and fast. Because he's all those things, even if you guess right, he can just herky-jerk his way to the rim or herky-jerk his way back to a fall-away, mid-range jumper, and there's nothing you can do. He had the game-sealing steal with a couple free throws after the foul by Embiid to really send the Sixers fans home and make it a 10-point game again. He had a block of Embiid to start the game. He had a step back in the mid-range, just nailing heavily contested mid-range jumpers. And and that has to be frustrating for defenses. And the Thunder officially have another player to add to their list of lengthy players who are what I would call throw your hands up players. Just throw your hands up, because it doesn't matter. And you're going to sit there and you can defend him the best possible way, right? You can get in his grill. You can close out strong. You can dang near foul him. He's still going to make the shot. He's still going to score. He's still going to find ways to impact the game and score on you. What can you do? There's a play in this game where SGA passes up a wide open three to put his head down and go to the rack, and then pulls up at the elbow. The defender sticks to him, gets almost in his jersey, and he hits an elbow jumper with a guy in his jersey. And he passes up an open three for an even better look for him. Even though it's more tightly contested, for him, he lives there. He lives in that environment, and he knocks it down. It's going to start to happen more and more, where you're going to start to see SGA score, and defenses just throw their hands up, look at the bench, and say, what do you want me to do? What would you like me to do? Because any tighter defense than that, and I foul him, and he still made the shot. SGA flexing on Matisse Thybulle after that tough bucket at the rim to put OKC up 101 to 82. Like, that emotion, it's great to see. After the game, he told Nick Gallo on the Bally Sports broadcast that he felt like the ball was a little too sticky to him last game against Miami, and he fixed that, as he did. And while fixing that, limited the turnovers to just, one in this game. And then, during the big media scrum, SGA has this amazing quote where he says, quote, I think we are going to be a really good team a lot sooner than people think. I see the growth every day. I see the growth over the last 5 months, years, 2 years. I see the growth, and I'm super excited about it. That's what he said, SGA. Add that to the pile of your defense mechanisms against the national narrative about SGA and the national kind of conversation on SGA. But more specifically, for him to say, I think we're going to be a really good team a lot sooner than people think. For him to say he sees the growth every day, he's seen it in the last 5 months. And for him to say in the past that he appreciates how Sam Presti explains the plan to him, and he understands the plan from Sam Presti. So keep in mind that that's all stuff that SGA has said. Now also keep in mind that Sam Presti has discussed that the way they're going to handle this season is, if they're playing games of consequences, pretty much, they're going to leave it alone. They're a half game out of the play-in tournament. Had Miami not made 40 consecutive free throws on Tuesday, much less been granted 40 free throws on Tuesday, they'd be sitting right now in the play-in tournament on the standings list. Are these games of consequence? It's SGA vying for an all-star spot, which I think he's locked up. It's SGA vying for an all-NBA spot, which I think he might be able to get to this year, especially if he takes this team to the playoffs. And you're just running out of options. Like, if you truly believe, and I don't mean to pick on him, but if you truly believe that the Thunder are going to trade Darius Bazley, because Sam Presti never lets guys get to restricted free agency, because it doesn't look like they're going to re-sign him, like everyone would predict that they're not going to, and they're just not going to bring him back. If you truly believe they're going to make a swing of a trade for him and just get back a whatever piece, right? I've been mentioning the Hamidou Diallo for Sue Mikhailiuk trade. That trade, you gave away a player who was not in your long-term plans. You got back a player who's not in your long-term plans. You just wash your hands of it. If that's the trade that they're going to make, well, then that player that you get back from that deal from Bazley is not going to be playing over Aaron Wiggins. And so you're going to sub in the minutes for Bazley tonight for Wiggins, and your team gets better. There's just not very many levers you can pull to make this team worse. There's not very many, ways to make this team stop winning basketball games. And you're not going to shut down SGA. I don't believe that they have shut down SGA before. In terms of I don't think that these injuries have been fake for SGA nonetheless. So barring health, and I say that understanding this team has survived a heck of a lot. Like, we say barring health, and when we say that, mostly the picture in your mind is SGA. But this team has been playing for weeks now without a big man. Chet Holmgren got hurt in August. Poku, who was playing great this season for his standards and is playing like a really, really nice rotational piece. He's been out and will continue to be out for another, 4 or 5 weeks. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl hasn't played since before Christmas with an ankle sprain, and he's a really good player down low, which is the Thunder's biggest area of need. And even with all of that, they have still managed to keep themselves relevant, keep themselves within a half a game of the play-in. Because of the jumbled West standings, because of, Minnesota not taking the leap that people expected, because of all these other factors, mainly because the Thunder are winning more games. They were national media people, like John Hollinger, who looked at this roster on paper and said, they're going to win 20 games this year. And printed it. They put it in print at a reputable, great source like The Athletic. The Thunder have 19 wins in January. If they can win tonight against Chicago on the second night of back-to-back, they'll have already reached that plateau. And I don't say that to pick on John Hollinger. I'm just saying that was the expectation. But now we're here, even with all this adversity that they've dealt with. It hasn't been SGA that's been out. It hasn't been Josh Giddey that's been out. It hasn't been one of your top guys, except for Chet Holmgren. But it has been players who heavily impact the outcome of games. And you've still survived it. You're 2 weeks away from Ousmane Dieng getting reevaluated and hopefully, getting the all go, the all clear or close to it. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is still apparently not day-to-day, despite the ankle sprain happening December 14th or whatever it was, or 15th. I think it was at that last Dallas road game before the 7-game homestand. But still, you've weathered the storm to this point. You're going to get those guys back eventually, and you've got to play them, which is going to make the team better. So it feels like these are games of consequence. It feels like these are games in which the Thunder have decided that they're going to try to make the play, and that would be quite the statement. That would be quite the statement. For Memphis being the darlings of never tank, go see how long they missed the playoffs before their first arrival back in the play-in. And then go see how long the Thunder have missed the playoffs before their next play-in arrival, if they can get there this year. And then look at the rosters and the future draft assets. Something to think about. And this stretch is going to be interesting. And I hate to push back Judgment Day, but I think we're going to have to, just based on that Miami game, that look, if the Miami game was a win, in a 1-point basketball game, and now you're riding a 4-game winning streak into Chicago, this thing would be totally different. So I hate to do it based off one game, but I had Judgment Day for whenever this team returned back home to Indiana against Indiana. But let's look at this from where the Thunder sit right now, a half game out of the play-in. They go to Chicago, who is not going to have DeMar DeRozan. He's listed as doubtful. Zach LaVine is listed as probable, but he's still in the report. And then they won't have Tony Bradley, they won't have Javonte Green, and they won't have Lonzo Ball. They're going to go to Chicago, yes, on the second out of back-to-back, yes, on a road back-to-back, and yes, they probably shouldn't win that just based on the schedule. But a Bulls team without one of their best players in DeRozan. They're going to play the Nets without Kevin Durant. They're going to play the Pacers without Therese Halliburton. And then they play Sacramento, Denver, Atlanta, Cleveland, Golden State to end the month. I think February 1st, if the Thunder are still a game and a half out of the play-in or less, then it's full go. Not necessarily that they should make any roster moves, but it's just take the idea of getting to the bottom out of your head completely, because February 1st, you start a 2-game set with Houston. Then you play the Warriors again, this time in Golden State. Then you play the Lakers, Portland, who are both play-in opponents or future opponents or people you got to beat to get those seeds anyway. And you're going to start to take this season and see the season take shape. It'll be fun. That's the bottom line. It'll be fun. I'm not sure how the season's going to shake out, but it's going to be fun. We'll talk more about this game coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at LinkedIn, folks. LinkedIn is awesome. It is a platform that you want to use, especially if you own a small business or you're a hiring manager. You know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why to go to LinkedIn Jobs right now, you need to check it out, because LinkedIn Jobs can hire qualified candidates more effectively by matching open roles with people who have the skills, the values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resumes and data points to match you with insightful members with your job posts and your company that they can actually use from their over 875 million member database with profiles and posts that you can put in front of them for the qualified candidates. And you can identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them faster for free. So go right now to LinkedIn Jobs to make your life easier. You can screen and rate applicants based on what their qualifications are, all on one platform. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn number one on delivering qualified hires versus leading competitors. So, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedInNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedInNBA. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply, but go check out linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. We're back talking Thunder basketball, and we lead segment number 2 with Jalen Williams out of Arkansas. Best game of his career. That's not a bold take. That's just what it is. Best game of his career by a mile in the NBA. Had a triple-double in the G League, but still, best game of his career in the NBA. Second possession of the game. He gets the ball, top of the key, pops a three, bangs it home. And that was whenever I tweeted out how different it looked, because watching J. Will as closely in the G League, sitting courtside and watching, I'm like, even in the G League, it took a little bit to get comfortable. And by comfortable, you can interchange that word with confident. And I hate to cast that upon him and say he wasn't confident before. So I like to use what Cameron Woods and Mark have said about force. It took him a bit to start playing with offensive force and start, being comfortable enough to take a three-pointer, even if he's wide open, like making the decisions, so to say, for himself, and not necessarily deferring, is another way to say it. But that had the look of what he looked like with the blue in his later stages with it in the G League. So he had that three. He had the Dr. J layup, the scoop layup after that. He had the charge that he drew. He had the outlet passes, the QB getting an assist. Still getting in foul trouble. That's kind of the one negative. Like everything else was great. The passing and playmaking was great. The scoring was great. The positioning was great, as in the dunker spot, facilitating out of the high post, being in pick and rolls. All that was great. Scrapping for rebounds and getting tap-out rebounds, that was great. He had that monster slam in the dunker spot with the no-look pass from J-Dub, which was awesome. He looked comfortable. He had 11 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Both of them were to J-Dub, so J-Will to J-Dub connection going strong still. Only 1 turnover, 27 minutes, but he had 5 fouls. So he's still, the only negative is he's still dealing with what young players typically do down low, of any size, but especially when you're young and undersized. You're going to foul more. You're going to get caught with your hand in the cookie jar. You're going to get caught in the wrong position, and you're going to foul more. It's just a matter of limiting that to the best of your ability. But all in all, great game from J-Will. Let's talk Josh Giddey. An area of Josh Giddey's game that I think should be discussed more, and I think soon will be discussed more, is just the intangibles, or the it factor, or the usual gimmicky stuff that people just throw out there and don't really have stuff to back it up with, but you can actually back it up with Josh Giddey. He's a winner. Like in the clutch, he performs his best. In this game, he had 20 points. So remember this, 20 points. 8 assists, 4 rebounds, a steal. He went 1 for 3 from 3, shot 50% from the floor. So he had 20 points. In the fourth quarter, he got 11 of those 20 points, with 2 of those 4 rebounds and 1 assist of those 8. He only missed 2 shots in the fourth quarter. On Tuesday in the fourth quarter, he scored 10 of his 18 points. He had the and one to put OKC up 112-97, which was huge. He had that contested 3, which was huge. He was getting downhill stronger in different portions of this game, which allowed him to get 5 free throw attempts. He is shooting free throws at a historically low rate for a guy that goes and does work in the paint. And so it's good to see that trending in a more positive direction. And since December 1st, he's shooting like 92% at the free throw line, which is also good to see him shooting better at the free throw line. He had the beautiful backdoor cut pass to SGA for a slam. SGA, of course, now has a career high in dunks at 25. Continues to pile on that career high. Josh Giddey, his clutch gene is not just his scoring. We pointed out the points differential there and how he's scoring a lot of them and the majority of them in the fourth quarter. It's just a knack for clutch rebounding too. And that one is hard to qualify because he did get half of his rebounds in the fourth quarter, but it's just when he gets them. It's when he gets them, it is so huge. It's always to save a possession or to end a possession that desperately needed one or the other. It's to save a possession where you took an ill-advised shot or you missed a free throw or whatever. It's to end a possession where this is like their third chance and you finally get it to end without any damage done. Like, it just is always in the big moments. And it could be coincidental, but it also could be really nicely tied to Josh Giddey in the way that he's wired. He plays with a passion and an energy that makes you believe that he really, really cares about winning. And they all care about winning. But it's just Giddey's is such an ability for him to transcend that and make it pop off the screen at you. Because he kind of shows it, wears it on his sleeve a little bit. And the data points back it up that he's playing really well in these fourth quarters. And he's playing really well in these fourth quarters while SGA's on the floor. They're playing well together. They're playing well off of each other. So it's almost like we shouldn't have judged them prematurely. Because now, after they get some games under their belt, all of a sudden, they're closing out games strong. They're winning games in the fourth quarter. They're having this team on the brink of the play-in without their third best player in Chet Holmgren. Without, and you can argue he's the second best player, but we're not going to get into that right now. One of their top three players in Chet Holmgren. Without their two big men. Without their lottery pick in Ousmane Dieng. And they're still having this cook. And that is where the Thunder future, no matter how this season pans out, continues to look so bright. It's because this was not supposed to happen. You still don't have your best asset from the rebuild. Like, think about this. Josh Giddey, fantastic. Picked him at 6. Your second overall pick, the highest pick of this rebuild, has not played yet. The guy that's supposed to be the unicorn, is supposed to be the top guy, hasn't even played yet, and you're still right there. And we talk about the play-in, but it's not crazy to talk about the
playoffs
because they're only like 2.5 games out of the 6th seed. Now, when they get to the 6th seed, that is way lofty. Let's worry about the play-in right now. But it just goes to show that they are closer to avoiding the play-in in a positive way, than they are to being atop the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, to being in the mix for the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. They are closer to avoiding the play-in than they are to the 4th worst record of the NBA, which is where they had finished the last 2 seasons. And that's without Chet Holmgren. That's without 2 of your 3 lottery picks. That's without Poku, who you've invested so much into. That's without Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, you traded 2 second-round picks for to go up and get. That's without cashing in any of your future draft picks, aside from the Ousmane Dieng trade to go buy that first-round pick. That's without hardly anything besides just maturation of this group. It's with 1 additional lottery pick to that pairing that they're almost to that playoff play-in spot. We'll talk about J-Dub, Trey Mann, and how the Thunder won this game, all coming up. But first, I'm going to tell you right now about our good friends over at BetOnline, folks. BetOnline is the number 1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and breakdowns for the latest odds, trends, and action on every professional and amateurs league out there, from pro and college football, basketball, baseball, hockey, WNBA, FIBA, everything. World Baseball Classic coming up as well. Check it out today at betonline.net. If you love sports, they have you covered there. Always going to have you there for the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports betting action. Head over right now today on your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. You type in betonline.net, open up their sports book, and then boom, you can bet on the NFL playoffs. Niners are 9.5-point favorites at home against the Seahawks. Let's see if that comes true on Saturday. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. We're back talking J-Dub. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Let's talk J-Dub from Santa Clara. 14 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds, a steal, a block. Ooh, that chase down block. That chase down block really got me going, and it made me think of Mike Breen going, oh, block by James. I needed Chris Fisher to break out block by J-Dub. But it's okay. It's okay, Chris. I'll give you a pass for this one. 54% from the floor, 2 for 3 from 3. And he has some nice cuts. We've talked about him as a player. one thing that we're talking about here real quickly, it's just the swagger, like the confidence, the cool factor. Like throwing that pass to Jay Will in the dunker spot for that rim rattling slam and just forcing it to be a no-look pass out of nowhere just for fun. Like those cool highlight plays from J-Dub, the coolness of Shai on his Instagram posts after these games where he's posting Poku fanny packs and 2K screenshots. Everything about this team is good vibes, really cool guys to follow, and really cool brands for fans to catch on to. And that is so important in a small market. In a small market, that's the only way you become a transcendent logo, where your logo is represented around the world, as it was during Russell Westbrook's era, as it was during the Kevin Durant era, as it was, many, many years ago. It can be that once again with how cool these guys are. So it's great that they're amazing basketball players. It's also really cool that they're also really cool people as well. Trey Mann played great. 18 minutes, 14 points, 2 assists. Man, Trey Mann was awesome. Like, he had the slithery paint step back elbow jumper, which is cool, that kind of weave in and out of 2 defenders off the dribble and then hit the step back at the elbow. He had a miss that went just halfway home and came back out, which is tough luck. He also has continued to make these plays where he looks so poised. Like, there was one play where there's a deflection. He had to run over to the sideline, grab the ball, and as he gets the deflection, he turns that into a layup at the rim by going past Harden. He had a shooter's roll three-pointer, which kind of made up for the in-and-out three-pointer. And he had a heat check from the arena logo, which he missed. But he's making mistake-free basketball. And, of course, the biggest highlight was his step back over James Harden at the free throw line, which got everyone happy on Thunder Twitter. There's also great minutes here from Kenny Hustle, who had a huge three to make it 109-95. Mike Muscala played well in drop coverage whenever Jay Will got in foul trouble as well. Isaiah Joe had a cold shooting night, but other than that, like, it was awesome. And to put this game into context, the Thunder played with great pace. The Thunder generated great shots and great looks with great ball movement. And they came out with their hair on fire in the first quarter after Mark challenged them to bring the urgency. And I think that that's a big deal. I think that when your coach brings you a challenge, and every time that Mark has told us before the game in the media, the challenge pregame, it's translated. I think that that's a big deal, that the players are listening and taking these challenges to heart and fixing the issue. Because he said to Joe Mazzato in Philadelphia before the game that they understand that Philadelphia came into their building in the Paycom Center on New Year's Eve and really put a beat down on them. They got to come out with more urgency. That's exactly what they did. He's talked before games about, hey, this game, we got to bring physicality. And then they do that. So correcting it with what Mark wants them to do is huge. And then I mentioned this on the Watch Playback I did, so you can go follow me over at Watch Playback at Locked On Thunder. We're going to be watching some games together, especially whenever the team's on the road. But for as great as SGA played in the first quarter, again, the pace, the ball movement, the shot creation, the good looks, for as great as they played, they were still tied after one quarter. He made 0 progress on the scoreboard. But then OKC could grow a 10-point lead at halftime. After halftime, though, you've got a 10-point lead. You're entering your best quarter of the season. You've always dominated the third quarter. With a 10-point lead, you're thinking, this is right where we want to be. And then Philadelphia throws an amazing counterpunch. As a team that's been there, as a team that's an Eastern Conference contender. They throw a counterpunch to take a 10-0 run in the third quarter to tie the game and then take the lead on even bigger, what was looking to be a knockout blow as the Philadelphia fans got into it, the players got into it. How did this young Thunder team respond? How did the second youngest team in the NBA and the youngest team in the NBA this year and the second youngest team in NBA history, only second to last year's Thunder team, how did they respond? Only by going on a 12-3 run of their own and gaining that lead right back. But then the Sixers threw that left hook, and they made it a 6-point game in the middle of the fourth quarter. Once again, the second youngest team in NBA history and the youngest team this year in the NBA in OKC had another great response to eventually grow this lead back out to double digits. They got Embiid in foul trouble. Harden missed some open looks, but other than that, the Thunder just flat out outplayed Philadelphia. Flat out outplayed them. And again, there's no excuses for Philadelphia. Fully healthy. They were in the game in the third quarter. Like the players were into it. They brought urgency. They brought intensity. They played the best that they could in that third quarter. But OKC answered the bell each and every time. The Thunder drew 5 offensive fouls. Jay Will got 1. Bays got 1. Dort got 1. Kinney got 2. And even with the off shooting night from Isaiah Joe, even with Bazley playing over Wiggins and having a bad night, Bazley did not have a good night offensively at all, but played some really good defense that cannot be lost in this game. But Bazley was just not there at all offensively. Even with all of that, OKC beats a contending Sixers team 133 to 114. The Thunder once led by 21 points. They only trailed by as many as 4. There were 3 lead changes, 8 times tied. Both teams had 39 rebounds, so completely even on the glass. OKC had 6 fewer turnovers. The Thunder won points in the paint, 52 to 44. The Thunder dominated fast break points, 21 to 12, which I've been telling you for 2 years now. The fast break points is where the Thunder should make their money and is going to eventually lead them to more wins. It's showing up this year in a big way, especially in this game, 21 to 12. The Thunder did lose second chance points, 15 to 7. OKC shot 51, 42, and 94, while Philadelphia shot 44, 30, and 92. OKC covered the spread. SGA is your MVP, and we'll have a bonus podcast for you Saturday after the Bulls game because we're here for you every single weekday and after every single Thunder game, which means Monday morning we'll have a Nets recap for you after the Sunday game. And the injuries are becoming a storyline for OKC, considering the fact that the Bulls will have DeMar DeRozan doubtful, Zach LaVine probable, Tony Bradley out, Javonte Green out, Alonzo Ball out. The Nets will not have KD. The Pacers will not have Halliburton. We'll see. We'll see how this season goes, but we're going to be here for you every single step of the way. So subscribe on all podcasting platforms so you never miss an episode. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another. And remember, the Thunder might make the
Playoffs?